The 6 healthy personality traits. You have conscientiousness, emotional stability, openness to experience, optimism, assertiveness, and resilience. Conscientiousness, emotional stability, openness to experience, optimism, assertiveness, and resilience. The basic needs that each person needs to fulfill, the stages of psychosocial development. Trust versus mistrust as an infant, between the child and the primary caregiver. Autonomy versus shame or doubt. This is the toddler stage. Initiative versus guilt. This is preschool. Industry versus inferiority. It's a grade schooler. Identity versus role confusion, which is a teenager. Intimacy versus isolation as young adult. Generativity versus stagnation, which is middle adult. And integrity versus despair, which is older adult. Trust versus mistrust is an infant, so the child feels neglected from this age already. There is going to be disturbance throughout the whole development. It depends on how severe that neglect is. Okay? But if trust is established as an infant, my trust was established as an infant. And so in general, I would describe myself now as somebody who trusts easily, but then will watch the person's behavior also to see if that is consistent. So there is a difference between me trusting them and them behaving in a way that is trustful or trustworthy. And sometimes I can sense that something isn't right, and I will see in situations when they lie or when they behave in a certain way that I feel like, okay, I don't know if I can actually generally trust this person. It happens very seldom, but it does happen. Autonomy versus shame and doubt for the toddler, meaning do they have the freedom to explore and be autonomous, as in be independent, play on their own, run into the garden by themselves as long as you're watching them, that sort of thing. If you're constantly saying, be careful, be careful, be careful, that can create shame that is unnecessary. So the child isn't really doing anything wrong, but you're making them feel shameful for the fact that they're wanting to explore and be independent and make their own choices. Or they'll learn to doubt their instincts and they learn to doubt their choices, and it takes the trust that has been built and it chips away at it slightly. And because it's deep down in the subconscious, because this is part of the early development, this is stage 2, it will affect how they make choices and how independent they are when they get older. Initiative versus guilt. What initiative means is being able to think, okay, I need to help this person and do it. Guilt is the opposite. So if the child is learning to take initiative and make their own bed and tie their own shoes and decide what pants and shirt to wear, because they're in preschool, and pack their own bag for school and things like this, and they're told, don't do it like this, don't do it like that, da 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 da, it will cause anxiety that is unnecessary. So then instead of building initiative and confidence, it's going to build guilt. But the child will be confused as to why they feel guilty, and that they will carry into adulthood. Industry versus inferiority. So industry is being conscientious, studying hard, being organized, versus inferiority, not feeling good enough for your grade, as in for the level of schooling that they're on. So they'll compare themselves to their classmates, and they'll end up feeling like they are not smart enough, they are not good enough. I struggled with this. So I think that potentially between autonomy and initiative, I had a little bit of chipping away at my spirit. And so it did affect my industry versus inferiority level. And I had to fix that in my 20s. So I started to fix that from about 18 years old up, because I recognized that there's something. It wasn't a huge disturbance, but I recognized that there's something where I feel unsure of myself in my academic performance, and I need to fix that myself. And then identity versus role confusion. This becomes, I know who I am. And this is a process for a teenager, right? So it's from 12 up until 18, 19. So you learn, this is what you like, this is what you don't like. For me, there was a lot of originally feeling like I'm watching my friends, I'm watching my siblings, I'm watching adults, and I agree with this and I disagree with that. And therefore I realized I'm more cautious. So I'll look and see, is this actually going to work? Let me read up about it before I do something. So I was very picky with certain things. I was happy to not have many friends, as long as I had friends who are actually there for me when I need them, and that I'm actually there for them when they need me, rather than just to have fun together. And I never really had role confusion, so to speak, where I didn't know who I was and what I wanted. I knew that I knew that there were certain things I did not want to do, and I knew that there were certain things that I was at peace with, and I felt that it was fine. Intimacy versus isolation, meaning from about 19 all the way through to about 35, intimacy means you want to have a committed relationship. You want to feel loved. You want to feel like you're impacting and being part of somebody else's life. And so this is where dating happens. I was just more particular with my dating. I enjoyed being single too. And so isolation is kind of like where you feel you want to be single, or you want to date a lot of people, or you don't want to date a lot of people. It is usually a longer time frame, because it depends on when the person gets married and starts their family. So intimacy is when you're in a committed relationship, and because what you're doing is you're longing for somebody to love you and you love them. So if it is a committed relationship, then you're working and nourishing that relationship. Whereas many people go through different relationships, the way that I've gone into a committed relationship later on in my life. So a lot of mine was isolation, so to speak, singleness, where I enjoyed it. And not necessarily out of choosing it, but not forcing a committed relationship. And then generativity versus stagnation is from middle adulthood, where you're more comfortable in your own skin, but you're also mentoring younger people. So are you willing to take what you've learned and teach younger people, and actually have those young people also teach you things, because they're different and they're growing up with different things and different ideas, and so you're learning from each other? Or you're stagnating, where you feel like where you are in life is not where you plan to be. Maybe you wanted to have children already, maybe you wanted to have grandchildren already, things like this. So generativity versus stagnation. So if you feel like in this middle age season that you're not where you should be, you would tend to start to feel like you're moving backwards instead of forwards. An industry, integrity versus despair is older adults, where they look back on their life and they're either satisfied, or they look back on their life and they regret.